features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
There is clear blue sky of winter, the perfect foil for an afternoon safari. We're on the search for the little prince of Juma, Hosana. This is Safari Live.
Ready. Standing by.
You are live.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our sunset safari on this beautiful afternoon. It is very warm for this time of the year. It doesn't even feel like a winter's day. It almost feels like we're going into spring. It's so warm this afternoon, which is perfect conditions to be able to do a safari this afternoon. Now, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got Craig, aka the Batman, and like I said earlier, we are going to be looking around for Hosana. We managed to find him very late this morning, and so we're going to try and see if we can't find him. So for the new viewers out there who are not sure who Hosana is, he's a young male leopard that hangs around in this area and is known as the Prince of Juma. Now remember, you are the most important part of all of this, the viewers, so you can use hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and ask us any questions that you may have, or if you want to know anything about little Hosana, if you want to catch up, if you are a new viewer. Right, Craig, without further ado, let's get going and start heading down towards Treehouse Dam. He was moving south from Treehouse Dam, but I did get a report that he went to sleep in a thick area, but it's just south of the dam itself. So I'm going to go and check. Maybe with this warm weather that we've got this afternoon, might have driven him to come back for a little drink around the dam, and maybe there were some prey items that would have come down that would have lured him back again to try and hunt. He was so close this morning. He must have been perfectly in sort of weight, because we were at the dam this morning and there was no sign of any leopard. There was big elephant bull drinking and lots of impalas and waterbuck that were drinking as well, and everyone looked very relaxed, and we were actually talking about how relaxed the animals were because of the lack of a crocodile, and they were all head down drinking. Next thing, there was this explosion and animals darting everywhere, and out came Hosana in a blur of spots after the impalas, but he just missed, and I was hoping that he was going to grab one, not for the impala's sake, but just because it's always nice to see our young leopards coming of age and really doing so well. So hopefully we'll be able to find him on a kill at some point soon. Now, what is very interesting is just off to my right here is a sea of butterflies. There's just movement everywhere as butterflies are fluttering about, which is very strange. This time of the year, we really shouldn't see so many butterflies flying about. They should all really be down on the should be out for the winter, and yet we are seeing spotted jokers, acreas, monarchs, and varying species of butterflies all congregating in this area, which is an indication that it is a very warm afternoon and that winter hasn't set in just yet. We're still kind of hanging on to those warmer temperatures, and therefore the insects can do the same. Now, the reason why they're congregating in an area like this where we've got lots of lush grass is because of the amount of moisture that we have in this area. So this area will be a perfect place for butterflies to sequester moisture, and we can actually see them on the other side here. There's quite a few, Craig, which might be a little bit easier for you in the mud. So they're using that muddy area to be able to get lots and lots of moisture from there and be able to get the water that they need to survive. So all kind of moving around in this general vicinity. It is very pretty to watch them going about their business. Right, but we are not going to let ourselves get too distracted with the butterflies. We have a mission to go and find young Hosana, and so while we do that, let's go across to Miss McCurdy so she can say good afternoon.
Hello everybody, good afternoon and welcome to, of course, another sunset safari. It's great to be back out here. It seems as though you had a very exciting drive this morning. My name is, of course, Tayla McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Fergus. And we are bumbling about, hoping to find all sorts of wonderful things. Now remember, this is indeed a live and interactive safari, so we'd love to hear from you if you've got any questions for us, or if you'd like to post some pictures, anything you want, you can do so by hashtagging Safari Live on Twitter. Now I have no idea what we've got planned, what the animals, sorry I should say, have planned for us this afternoon. But it's hot. It really is the most beautiful day today. Barely any wind, the sun is out, it's hot. So I think we might see a few elephants, maybe some buffalo, and we're actually on the way down to the dam now. Because I just spoke to one of our directors, Will. He brought some viewers to come and say hello to us, which was really nice. So we got to meet some of the fans, which I love to do. And he said that he thought it sounded like something, we heard distress calls coming from behind the rooms at Vuyatela Lodge. So I think the first things first is we're probably going to go and check around there and see what we can see. But if you have been watching the dam cam, you would have seen the buffalo that are sitting here. I don't know how many there are, I've just seen 2. So we're going to go up and onto the dam wall, and then we'll have a look at those buffalo and see what other birds we've got down. We should see a variety of things, terrapins, maybe even a water monitor along those lines. Right, it seems as though Jamie has already found the first animal for the afternoon, so let's go across to her in Kenya with some elephants. Hello and welcome to the glorious Masai Mara, where we're starting off with one of the giants out here, the African elephant. And of course, true to form, I now actually need to move the car. Oh wait, hold on, no, I might need to move the car. Okay, hold on 1 second. Sorry everybody. We had a perfect open stretch of road. And unfortunately we're still in Chiku, which means I have to duck down and then pop back up. I'll explain in a moment. Jumbo! Right, back up again. My name is Jamie, and this afternoon Senzo has made it all the way from South Africa, where he was on Juma, to the Masai Mara. So welcome, Sens. It's lovely to have you here. So slowly but surely the full team is arriving, not counting of course the people that we miss so very much back on Juma. Don't forget to send through your questions on #SafariLive on Twitter. This afternoon we'll be live both from South Africa and from Kenya. This afternoon I think we're going to go back to where we were this morning. This morning we were conducting signal tests, and it's all going very, very well, and it's very exciting. And we happened to come upon a hunting cheetah. We're going to race back and see whether or not she's still where we left her. Fingers crossed she will be. I hope so. It's quite a long way away, and of course there's always the fact that the distances that we have to travel are a little bit further, and the gate closes at 6:30. We're an hour ahead of South African time, so we'll have to get there, quickly have a look at her, fingers crossed, and then race back up to the top. It's lovely to hear that Tristan is back on Juma once again. Let's go and find out whether or not he's had any luck in searching for Hosana.
Well, no, not yet, Jamie, and it's quite weird actually to talk to Jamie all the way 2,500 miles from where we are, because just the other day I was here with her and we were driving around together, so very strange to kind of hear Jamie all the way from that side, and I hope she's having a wonderful time. I did actually speak to her and Brent the other day, and they seemed like they were having a great time. Now, in our tree over here we have a multitude of different birds, but the one that is most obvious, which is that guy over there, is a magpie shrike. But this particular magpie shrike has got a lot of white on its back. It's most unusual. Generally they only have a little bit of white there, and this one has got a lot more than normal, and it almost looks as though it's got a bit of a leucistic gene in it that allows it to be so white. It's quite strange. In fact, actually, it's a young bird that hasn't really gotten its plumage yet. That's what it is, now that I can see properly. I was going by naked eye, and I thought maybe there was a little bit of leucism coming through, but it's actually just a young juvenile bird that hasn't got its full adult plumage yet. And we will see this at this time of the year. A number of these birds would have bred in late summer, particularly because our rains were so late, and that means that we're ending up with a situation where we've got birds like this. Now, I'm going to try and find it in my book so that you can see what I mean in terms of the normal bird color. So if we have a look here, Craig, there we go. That's what they normally look like. You see the black on the wing is normally just little white bars and white stripes, whereas that one, this whole area is all white. So very, very different. Right, well, we're at Treehouse Dam, so I'm going to now get out my binoculars and scan around and see what I can find. And while I do that, I believe Miss McCurdy has found one of the most dangerous, gnarly animals that we get out here.
We have indeed, and just a moment ago I said I could only see 2 buffalo at Vuyatela Dam, but then as I came up onto the dam wall I noticed that there were 3 dugger boys, and enormous in size, and just wallowing away in the mud. And I am so excited because we're going to start to see this more often. Every pan that has water in, every drying up mud wallow will be filled with either a hippopotamus or a buffalo as the dry season sets in, and it's definitely come very quickly. We obviously had all that late rain, which was lovely because it means that the dams are now fuller than they've ever been, even at this time of the year. And they are also drying up very quickly. Now imagine if you were to come walking around here, it wouldn't be too great, and the wind is starting to pick up too. So as Tristan said, and quite rightfully said, they are indeed one of the most dangerous animals in Africa. In the car, we were right. They don't seem to bother us too much. You can just about drive right into the middle of a big breeding herd of buffalo, and all they do is sort of give you a dirty look. And of course, wherever buffalo go, you'll find the oxpeckers. Now these all look like red-billed oxpeckers, but we must check carefully because we might get lucky and see a yellow-billed oxpecker every now and then. It's been quite some time since we've seen the yellow-billed oxpeckers, but I suppose that's because the buffalo have been away too. But they're slowly coming back. They're slowly making their return. Every single day we start to see more and more of them. And Ferg was actually telling me today that while they were following a line, they actually bypassed a herd of buffalo that was just hiding off in the thickets. So there could potentially be some more just maybe having a siesta, just as this one is ruminating in the water. But possibly, maybe at Bivelshoek Dam side, we might go and have a look. I think we should hopefully see some elephants around there and hopefully some buffalo, and I'm sure some hippos. But it isn't just the buffalo that are at this dam. Like I said, on a hot day like today, you'll find a variety of different species. And we've got Mr. and Mrs. Hadeda Ibis just down to the left of this buffalo, wading about in the water, which is really nice. Now, I only saw this behavior for the first time the other day, and a lot of you that have maybe been watching probably think, goodness, Tayla, where have you been? Have you been locked in a cupboard your whole life? But I've just never come across Hadedas doing this. Like I said, I've seen their cousin, the African sacred ibis, the black and white ibises, which are quite common throughout South Africa. You see them in the water in the marshlands all the time, just probing their bills down into the ground. And I suppose if there's a gap in sort of the ecosystem here, and they can fill that little niche of being probers in the water rather than just out on land, well, there we go. Nature taking an opportunity. And I think with it being so dry at the moment, it's probably a lot easier for them to bob their heads down and to probe their beaks into that soft soil. And it looks like they're winning, don't you think? It looks like they're continuously getting little grubs or worms, or I don't know what would actually be living in all of this mud. I haven't gone sifting through it. They're not eating terrapins though, don't worry. They're looking for little insects and those types of things. I wonder if they would maybe look for little crustaceans that could be moving around in this water. But anyway, either way, it's really beautiful. See, it's a nice behavior, and I'm glad that the Hadeda ibises are doing it. That's great. So it just shows you, depending on what area you're in, you see birds doing different things. It's the same thing with the lions and leopards. Their behavior is almost area specific, and that's something we always need to take in account. How cool is that? Well, it's very busy here at the pan, but we're going to get a move on and go and see if we can find out what animal was making those distress calls behind Vuyatela Lodge. Tristan is still searching for Hosana, the beautiful prince. Let's go see how far he is.
Well, we checked Treehouse Dam, no sign of him coming back there. So now I'm going towards the Shabamu waterholes because we know he spends time here quite often. But I'm not going that way because I wasn't watching, and there's a massive tree that's in the road that's been pushed over by an elephant. So let's rethink about that maneuver quickly. Let's just go back this way. I think it's going to be easier, because otherwise we're going to have to go through the tree, which is not possible. So I want to just check here just to see if he's not come this way after his sort of little gallivant around Treehouse Dam. He often does head into this general vicinity. Now the problem is this pan itself, as you can see, is starting to now dry out, and so there's really very little water that's actually left here, and this is not a place where he's going to be able to spend too much more time. You'll find that even things like warthogs and the varying other species of antelope that would have maybe drank here in the past are no longer actually going to be coming into this area, so it means that there's no prey keeping him here, and there's no water for him to cool his sort of body down and get hydrated. And so I don't know if he's going to come here too much more in the next few months, but it always worth just checking. There still is at least a little bit of water, and we know that there's warthogs that hang around here, and I've seen Hosana twice now trying to hunt these warthogs in this area, so it's always worth checking and just making sure that he's not lurking under this buffalo thorn on my right hand side that he likes to hang around in. And if he's not there, then I'm going to quickly check the fire break and make sure that he hasn't come out of this particular area that we're searching, and then we know that he must be still where they left him sleeping. So that's the kind of plan so far. Hopefully we will be lucky and we'll be able to execute our plan. Now, no tracks for him coming this way, which is good. It means that he hasn't gone further west. The problem with Hosana is that sometimes he can be so sneaky, he can just be down in the grass and you can miss him. So Carol, you're wondering if he's large? There he is in the road. Look at that. Winning! We won! There he is. On the road itself. So as I was saying to you, Shabamu Pans is always the winning spot, and so you're asking, is he large for his age? Well, he's not particularly large anymore. He went through a really big growth spurt, and he was much bigger when he was a little bit younger. Now he's filling out a little bit, but he's not as large as I would have thought he would have been by now. I thought he was going to be a little bit taller than what he is. He's now sort of still quite squat, and he's almost starting to look a little bit more like Tingana and Mvula in that he's filling out massively and he's getting massive shoulders and neck area, but his actual height is still quite small to the ground. So he will probably go through another growth spurt again. He's only, at the end of the day, I suppose, just over a year old. So I suppose, yes, he is actually quite large for his size now that we can see him. You can see, look at that neck area. Look how big it's getting. I'm so excited that we found him. Hosana, thank you. That was very kind of you to be lying right out in the road. And you can see he's been using the shade to his advantage and having a little nap there. Good afternoon, boy. And this is so cool because we've been having so many afternoons where, well, I have at least, where I've been trying to find leopards and we spend the whole day looking for them and without very much luck. And to now come across Hosana first thing in the drive means hopefully we're going to be able to spend a lot of time with him. The problem is we are right on the boundary and you can see he's yawning already, which is generally an indication that he might start standing up and moving. Now I hope if he does start moving that he moves back up towards these pans that we've just come from and not southwards towards Little Drive, or yeah, Little Gari Driveway is right here actually. I thought I was getting a bit confused as to where we are, but you can see, look at the size of his paw. So Monique, all the way from London. Hello Monique, I hope you're having a lovely day. And you're wondering if Hosana is big enough and skilled enough to tackle a warthog. Well, Monique, it depends on the size of the warthog. I don't think he's big enough or skilled enough yet to take on an adult female or an adult male warthog. But these warthogs that were born around October, that are now about 7 months old, they are in perfect size range for Hosana. And so in terms of that, yes, he will be able to. We also know that he has pulled down big adult male impalas, which means that he will be able to tackle quite large animals. But a warthog is a really, really feisty animal, and I was actually in the Kruger last week, and I know it's not a leopard, but I watched an adult cheetah trying to hunt warthogs, and it chased the young warthogs, and as soon as the mother warthog turned around, that cheetah got a absolute hiding from this warthog. It got chased all over the place, and I've actually got a video of it somewhere. I'll try and find it just now so that I can show all of you how the cheetah got chased. So even Hosana at his age that he is now would potentially then get chased by one of those adult warthogs, but younger warthogs most definitely are on the menu. But I can't believe how big his shoulders have got, and that's one area that he's really filled out. He's starting to get very wide around that shoulder area. So Beverly, you're wondering about the spot patterns and what a spot pattern 3-3 means. Well, what it means is basically the spots around the nose area. Now, hopefully, Hosana will start sleeping and I can get a little bit closer and I'll be able to show you what we're talking about. But basically, it's referring to the spots that lie just above the whisker line. So there's a series of spots on every leopard that is unique to that leopard. And so when we say 3-3, we're calling the number of spots above the whisker line on the right and left side of the face. So 3 on the left, 3 on the right, and that's its IDing feature. Now, the arrangement of those spots will be unique, and no other leopard will have the exact same arrangement as he's got, and will not have the same numbers. There might be a 3-3 leopard, but that will have 1 big spot and 2 small spots, or 2 big spots and 1 small spot, and they'll be arranged differently. And so that's how we use them to ID each individual leopard and to make sure it is who it is. Now, like I say, I'm pretty sure this is Hosana because I saw him this morning and it's come right to where I thought he would be, and so that's why I think it is him. And I'm pretty sure also when I saw him sort of look at us, you after a while just get to know what they look like and how they kind of sort of appear to you in real life, and that's how I also determine. Now, he seems like he's spotted something down the road. He's kind of looking in that direction and sort of wondering what's going on. What are you up to, boy? Are you going to go back to sleep? I hope he does go back to sleep, because then we'll be able to actually spend a bit more time with him. So Amy, you're saying when Hosana gets older, he's going to be a rival for Tingana. Well, most definitely. And that's why Tingana, when he sees that Hosana is starting to get bigger and larger, is going to try and chase him out of this area. So even though it is his son, Tingana knows that this could be potentially an individual that can overthrow him, and so he's going to try and push his son away from his core territory and make sure that he's got his own space to deal with. And so that's why you'll end up with a situation where young males normally don't actually stay too close to their natal territory. What can happen is Tingana, being slightly older, could potentially unfortunately pass away, and then you might find that Hosana is still in this area and he is able to take over, much like what we've seen with Quarantine, who hasn't gone far at all. Oh, that's a big yawn. A little bit of grooming. Right, we're going to spend some more time with our young prince, although let's see where he's going. Don't go south. Please don't go south, boy. Look how beautiful his coat is. He's got such a nice gold coat. No, that's the wrong way. Right, let's see. Well, I don't think he's going to be able to... Well, we're not going to be able to hold him for much longer, unfortunately, because once he goes this way, that's unfortunately southwards and onto the areas that we can't follow. So I'm going to just try and see if we can't get a last view of him before he does. You can see the main road is right here, and then Little Gowrie lies just on the other side of this. And also, the problem with this road is that because it's the main road, it tends to be very, very busy, and therefore we end up with a situation where there'll be a lot of cars that will end up coming here. But he's going to come right out onto the road now, I think. It seems like he's almost stalking something as he comes over. Where are you off to? But isn't that beautiful? In that afternoon light, that's as good as it gets. Oh boy. His coat is such a rich color in this light. I can't tell you how pretty he looks. He's got this kind of gold coloration, and it really is very, very bright. It's absolutely beautiful. And look at that face. He is a spectacular individual. So, Mohammed from Doha, you want to know how a male and a female leopard differs. Well, with male leopards, they tend to get much larger than the females. They get a much bulkier head area and this big flap of skin that will start to hang down called a dewlap. They also have golden testicles that hang out underneath their tail, which helps us be able to see that they're a male or a female. In terms of the females, much smaller, almost half the size in terms of weight, and tend to have much smaller heads and feet, and that's what helps us to be able to see them. Now, I'm going to try go forward a little bit and just see if we can't get our last review of him. Now, unfortunately, he is heading in the bad way and not the way that we wanted him to, so I don't think we're going to be able to stick with him anymore. And while he sort of drifts away from us, let's go back to Tayla and see if she's had any luck of her own.
Rex. Oh, hello everyone. Sorry, I'm just quickly gonna see if Rex's guests have lost themselves a beanie. Have any of your guests lost a beanie? Because I have it and I'm just behind you. But I just want to make sure I find it to its rifle. Okay, copy. Thanks, Trist. Keep it then. Thanks, Rex. Right, so look at this beautiful possession. I've got myself a new piece of clothing now, donated by Innocentia. Thank you very much. Again, Innocentia is one of our editors. So here's a beautiful beanie. Don't you think it's quite lovely? It's very nice, hey? Should we put it on? Should we see how it looks? Thanks, Innocentia. I don't think you're supposed to wear it like this, but I've got a big hat on, but I think it's quite nice, don't you? What do you think, Ferg?
I think it's
This is really nice.
Yes.
Are you doing a close-up of me in the beanie? Should I pout? No, I won't pout. We won't pout on Live and Live. It's beautiful, isn't it? Now, obviously, it's way too hot to wear a beanie like this, so I'm going to just keep it nice and safe for Innocentia. I think while she was... Oh, and I've just half removed my hat. I think while she was bumbling about getting all sorts of footage that she needed, she may have dropped it along the way, and that's probably one of the most common things that happen when you're out on a safari. So a little tip. I know Byron always does his tip of the day. We won't take that from him, but always make sure, if you are lucky enough to come out and visit us, use the pockets in the cars. I cannot stress to you how important that really is. Or some of your game viewers will have boxes that you can put stuff in. Put it in there. Don't rely on your jacket pockets, even if they have zips. I can promise you right now, your cell phones, your cameras, they'll magic themselves out of the pocket and into the bush, and the chances of you finding them are quite slim, because it doesn't matter if you've got the best tracker in the whole world. A cell phone does not leave a print on the ground, especially if it's bounced into the grass. So always be very, very careful with that. So I did a quick loop around WildEarthTV Dam and Galago Pan. I couldn't see anything in particular. I couldn't see any tracks other than those male lion tracks which were from this morning. So we'll come back a bit later. We'll keep checking the watering holes, because if there is an animal in that drainage line, we can't get in there with the cars. Impala being very rude, chasing the ladies around, and I don't want to go in there on foot, because that's where that lioness was calling from. It'll be a little bit silly to go in there, so we'll just leave it and hope that if it is the lioness that has made a kill, perhaps there's another leopard in there. If she goes out or she's eaten herself into a coma, she'll have to come and have a drink at some point, so maybe she'll pop out one of those dams. Now there's a whole lot of elephant tracks going this way. And Alice, do you know if there was any elephants seen on the dam cam throughout the day? Were they having a pool party at WildEarthTV Dam? No, now these ones are... No, they've come this way and they went back. Okay, there's some very nice fresh elephant tracks around here, so we'll just have a little search. Some of them are going this way, some of them are going the other way. So I know this was the area where they were last night, but they are going over the vehicle tracks from this morning, so they must have been here feeding again, always feeding in the drainage line. So that's where we'll be searching. Who knows, maybe we get another view of my particular favorite herd of elephants that seem to be about at the moment. They're really quite lovely. I think myself, Tristan and Ali now have all had an experience with them, and everybody says the same thing. They're just such a pleasant herd. Ferg, you enjoyed them last night, didn't you?
Stunning here, yeah.
Yeah, they're beautiful. They're a lovely temperament, but that can always change. Remember, with animals, it's just like us as humans, we have bad days, so can the animals. So you never know what mood an animal is going to be in. That's why it's so important to approach with caution, assess the situation before you make your next move. So we'll check Chele Pan, and it's obviously great that Hosana has been around. Hopefully he hangs around Treehouse Dam, and some Impala or some other antelope and things come down to have a drink, and he maybe starts stalking them. That would be quite nice. But I think that will be our aim. Maybe we'll get some warthogs just up ahead. There's a rather large family that have been hanging around in that area over the last few days, so it'll be nice to see them, particularly that big male. Remember Fergus, remember that one with the big tusks? He was so stunning, so I'd like to get a proper view of him, in fact. Yes, exactly. So that'd be great to see. Right, and we just keep our eyes out over, because it is such a nice vegetation for various animals to eat on. Tracks have just come back onto the road again, and so hopefully we're getting a little bit closer. Right, I'm going to send you back across to Tristan now while I try and track these elephants, and I hope Hosana puts on a show.
Well, I hope Tayla will find them. I'm sure they're going to head towards Bufferflies Dam, and I wonder if it's not the same herd we had this morning, because they were kind of heading in that direction. They were slowly mobile in a north sort of easterly direction from the riverbed itself, south of the dam. So I would imagine that that was where they'd be. Now, I've stopped here because I was busy admiring a lilac-breasted roller that flew away, which is the way things work. Unfortunately, Hosana's gone onto the wrong side of the road and is inside Little Gowrie, and I lost sort of sight of him going just further southward. So there are guys that are going to head into that area. They said they will definitely let me know should he decide to start moving back into our area. But it's still exciting to see the young fella and see how he's doing. He could do with a little bit of a meal. I saw when he stood up that he's not as full as he could be, but he's looking still good for his sort of young male that's on his own and having to hunt for himself. He is looking just fine, so good to see him. So Sky, you're asking if Hosana has been seen hoisting a kill. I personally haven't seen him hoist a kill. It's not to say that he hasn't. I think that potentially he has. I know, just trying to think, I'm sure Brent once told me that he did hoist a kill. Now, I'm sure a lot of the viewers out there will be able to help us with this, Sky. So, hashtag Safari Live if you've seen Hosana hoisting a kill. Craig, have you seen him hoist a kill? Yeah. I don't think so. I have definitely haven't seen him hoist a kill. In fact, I am yet to see Hosana or Shongile on a kill, as far as I know. Yep, I have not seen that. As far as I can think, I do not know if they've been on a kill with me. So, he's more than capable of it. And I remember the reports from Little Gowrie saying that he did hoist an Impala before. So I suppose he can do it. And he's more than capable of it. He's more than capable in terms of power, and so I would imagine, yes, he is able to hoist a kill, but it just depends on the parameters and what's going on. If there's very few hyenas around the area, then he's really not going to have to worry too much. He can leave it down on the ground. It also depends on the size of the carcass. If he had something like a fully grown male Impala, it might be a little bit tough for him, as opposed to one of the younger ones, or something small like a Warthog or a lizard or something like that, then you might find that he just doesn't tree it and he just eats it straight away. So it just depends on the size of the prey. Now, I'm going slowly along this Gowrie main road because, well, we know Tumba wasn't too far south of the boundary earlier. He was a bit more towards the Chitwa side, but we know he wasn't too far away. There was also tracks for a young female this morning, so you never know. Maybe little Shongile is hanging around in this area, and so we might just get lucky with one of them sort of patrolling around in this section and showing us themselves, really. So that's why we're coming down. Also, Tunda is always a good place at this time of the day. Ellies like to make their way towards water and towards the Milawati system, and so maybe we get lucky with some elephants at the dam itself. But it'll be interesting to see. I'd also love to know where our male lion ended up this morning, Mfumo. So Mfumo was here at the dam wall, and he then crossed south, and I wonder if he's gone to rest somewhere close by, or if he continued to go quite far and join his brothers that were also calling to the south this morning. But I don't see any tracks for him coming back this way. Tracks for little Hosana from last night. Nothing that I can see yet. Let's have a look now. There's some Warthogs. That's not a lion. We needed Hosana to come into this direction because this would have been perfect for him, is to try and hone his skills on a family of Warthogs that is just sort of underneath one of the trees on our right hand side. So there we go, you can see our family of Warthogs just busy feeding away. Now they would have had a really nice mud wallow out of these rescinding pans that we see, or seeding pans that we see around Baboon Pan area, and so this is what Hosana needs to look for, is these younger Warthogs like that one on the left that he could potentially go after. Now we're going to stay with our Warthogs a little longer and see if they do indeed go back to the mud wallow, and while we do that, let's go across all the way to Jamie with some Giraffe.
This particular animal is definitely not on Hosana's menu, partly because it's in Kenya, but also because it might just be just that little bit out of his range. As brave and strong as Hosana has proved himself to be, I don't think hunting a giraffe is on his list of to-do things. We've spoken before about the differences in the giraffe here versus the southern African giraffe, and this Masai giraffe is giving us... Well, he's keeping a close eye on us, nevertheless. But I spoke about the prominence of the bump in the middle of the forehead on this particular species of giraffe. And just look at this. Okay, this is a relatively understated example of what it is I was talking about. But obviously the ossicones... Wait, keep your head in shot, mister, while we're talking about it. Obviously the ossicones are very prominent. That's always the case with a male giraffe. But if you look at the bump in the middle of his head, that's obviously in this area, has also come in very useful in terms of being an extra weapon when fighting another male. Now the giraffe on Juma or in the Sabi Sand or in South Africa in general, that bone is more prominent in the males than the females, but it is very, very pronounced on the species here. So much so that I once saw one that almost looked... not quite, but about half the length of the ossicones or the horns on the top of his head. So those are the ossicones. A giraffe is born with them, hence why they're not called horns. Alright, we're going to leave one spotted creature in search of the next. While we do, let's go across to the animal that Hosana might try and catch.
Well, indeed, as we were saying earlier, these would be perfect sort of target animals. The one on the right, or the one that we're seeing there under the tree itself, would probably be one that would be a little bit too big for Hosana. I'd imagine Hosana would get a tough time if he went after that particular warthog. And I was talking earlier about the cheetah chase that I saw, so probably now is a good time to try and find it for you, since we've no longer with Hosana, and I can try and see if I can't get it. And there we go, Craig. Let's see if it will work, because I will have to try and keep a bit of shade because my screen is dirty. Hold on, let's just wipe that down so that we can actually see it. Now you're going to have to punch in, Craig, and hopefully this will work. But this was our cheetah hunt that we saw. Now I'm going to try and turn it down for you because we don't want too much noise. But basically, if you can see there goes the cheetah after the warthogs. And now you see the warthog turns, and there goes the cheetah with the warthog after it. So that was what happens when you bite off a little bit more than you can chew, and that is exactly what would happen to Hosana if he tried to go after this big warthog on the right hand side. So you have to be a little bit careful when hunting warthogs with these big tusks. They often can intimidate younger individuals. Now, somebody of Tingana's ilk or Anderson's ilk, that would be perfect prey animal for them. They would love to go after these big warthogs, and they do very regularly, and you'll find that they often make a kill. Now our warthogs have disappeared, so I'm going to try and carry on. Now I believe Tayla is trying to copy us, and she's got some warthogs of her own, and hopefully they're in a much better place than the ones we just had.
Tristan, I feel like we've had warthogs before a lot longer than you think. We've been waiting for them very, very patiently because they were moving through the long grass. Now, you're looking at the mother of the little piglets. We've actually seen this family before. It's just her, and then she's got 5 little piglets. Well, they're not even quite piglets anymore. I suppose we could probably call them sub-adults now. And they're moving through the grass, and we're between Chele Pan and Pangolin Track now. Some of you who watch regularly will know that there's a beautiful mud wallow. It's actually just on the other side, behind where these warthogs are. And it looks like they may have been in the mud earlier. And I think if we sit here quietly enough, they may walk around and go and wallow in that mud. Now that would be an absolute dream sighting this afternoon. We've seen buffalo in the mud already, but warthogs are the most hilarious. I think they're the most active, other than elephants, when they go down in the mud. And if you remember, we had a great sighting just on Chitwa at one of the little pans near the boundary, where my favorite warthog, who's the big ball that lives in Gwen's old den off of Cheetah Cutline, he was around there, and he was trying to defend his sounder from another young intruder. And after he chased him off, he came running in and he dived into the mud head first. It was really quite great to see. Now, I don't know if this sow has actually realized that we're here, because typically they don't hang around for this long. They normally run away. This is so great, though. Very relaxed. The piglets, or the juveniles, sorry, keep occasionally looking back towards us. So I think that they know that we're here. See that? She's not really paying attention, and I've lowered my voice slightly. You can actually may even hear her chewing. But Machine Gun Nest, you've said that warthogs are great at defense. They are indeed. Especially the boars. The girls, they're armed with weapons. They've got those tusks, and of course they are blessed with speed. And I think when you can run as quickly as a warthog can, and quite quick off of the mark, they can quite easily bowl you over. But of course the big males have got razor sharp tusks. Oh wow, right, I'm not going to dwell on these warthogs. You can come back to me. Tristan has got a very rare bird.
We do indeed. Now, this little bird, I'm not sure many of you would have seen it. You can see it's got its head tucked up. It is a female greater painted snipe. Now, these are not birds we see very often at all. And in fact, I haven't seen a painted snipe in the Sabi Sands in probably 3 years. So it's not something common at all. So this is a very, very, very special bird. And I'm hoping that the male is here somewhere as well. This is so exciting. I haven't seen one in ages, and they really are beautiful birds. The female is a little bit more drab than the male. And like I say, hopefully the male will be here. At the moment, it's difficult to see that it's a snipe because it's got its head tucked in. But when it has its head out, it's got a long pointed beak that comes off of it that is very snipe-like, and it can't be anything else. Now turn your head a little bit. We can just see your beak and those prominent white eye stripes, and one that runs down the middle of the head can only be greater painted snipe. That is so cool. Now, these are the areas where you would definitely find painted snipes, and normally it's after rain that you find them. When you've got a lot of rain and there's water sitting all over the place, these are a bird that we see around. But in this sort of last couple years, it's been so dry that there hasn't really been enough rainfall for them to be around, and I'm really surprised that this bird is here at this time of the year. Normally we see them a little bit more in the summer months, but obviously there's a bit of water here, and it's the perfect habitat for a painted snipe. This is so cool. Wow, that's amazing. Now I wonder if, like I say, if there's a pair. So Karen, you say this is a new bird. Now I'm not sure if we've ever put one on camera before, so hopefully it'll be a new bird for lots and lots of you. I know that they are seen in this area, and I think Brent has seen them once before here. I don't know if he's managed to get it on camera though, so it is a very, very cool bird to see, and not one that we are going to see every day. Now I'll show you in the book quickly, just so you know what the female and the males look like and what the difference is. Now earlier I was saying that the male is a beautiful bird. Now I'm going to try just turn my book so we don't get too much glare, but this is the female that we're looking at here. Like I say, you can see that prominent white eye stripe from here, and there's sort of gold flecks within the wings, and then that white breast area and yellow legs, and that long beak that I was talking about, that it's not in proportion with the head. Now the male on top here, look at how beautiful he is. He's got this kind of brownish rufous neck area, and then these gold flecks that come back, and these are the guys that I've seen around before. In fact, the last one I saw was just south of us here at Baboon Pan, so I wonder if maybe this is not the same pair that has just come back again after a few years of absence. It really is so, so cool. Now they're not the most active of birds, as you can see. They spend most of their time just on the fringes of wetlands like this, where they'll root around for varying food items, and so it really is a very cool bird to see. Now Roshni, you're wondering if painted snipes are monogamous, and Roshni, I'm actually not sure. This may be something that we can ask some of you guys. Maybe somebody that's on Google can tell us if they are indeed. Now I'm not 100% sure if they are. Interesting. I'm trying to read in my book here, but it doesn't say anything about them being monogamous or not. No, it doesn't say anything about it. It just says uncommon resident and local nomad to marshes and flooded grassland. Skulks among reeds and marshes and on the edges of wetlands, numbers and range decreasing in the southwestern region of South Africa. So, a very special bird to see indeed. We are very, very fortunate to see one of those. I'm super, super excited. Hosana, a painted snipe. It's been a magical start to the afternoon, that's for sure. Very cool. Well, we'll definitely keep an eye out on our painted snipe and see if it sticks around. Hopefully it will. Now, while we carry on and see what other mysteries of the bush we can find, let's go back to Miss McCurdy and her warthogs.
They're there, they're hiding just behind that leadwood that you can just see. Just moving around in the shadows now. They've all got their heads down. Mom very content still. She's actually very relaxed with the vehicle. So I wonder when we saw her the other day with that boar, if it wasn't just the boar that was being overly protective and moving them on, because they ran away from the cars. The piglets, I need to stop saying piglets because none of these are piglets anymore. The juveniles, like I said earlier, a little bit more observant and seem to be a bit more skittish around the vehicle. So they run off, but then they see that Mom doesn't react to us at all, and then they come back again. But it really is quite great, and they're edging closer and closer to that mud wallow. But now that they've stopped to feed, and this is one of their peak sort of feeding hours, I don't know if any of you have ever heard this before.
So, sorry about that. There's a few gremlins, and unfortunately Tayla has gone on to Wendy, and it seems like the gremlins have transferred onto Wendy too. So it's all a little bit difficult with that at the moment, so hopefully that'll sort itself out. Now there's lots of elephant tracks all over the road, but they're all pointing southwards, and it seems like they're heading towards sort of Little Gari as well, which is the story of the day so far. Our male lion crossed to Little Gari, our male leopard crossed to Little Gari, elephants have gone to Little Gari. So what we're going to try and do is we're going to head into the central parts, we're going to check the Mulawati quickly, and then from there we're going to go towards Chitwa Dam and hope that our Ellies go to Chitwa Dam for a drink this afternoon. That's kind of sort of way that we're going to angle and hope that things work out for us. But I'm surprised that Mfumo walked as much as he did this morning. He was went the whole morning long, and he was calling until late in the morning. And I wonder why. I wonder if there was maybe something that he ran into in the north that has pushed him so far south. Because he came back here and he didn't keep quiet the whole morning. And only once he heard his brothers or his coalition members for the first time did he then stop and actually start to kind of calm down a little bit. Prior to that, he was incessant in his calling and is moving straight southwards. So I wonder if there wasn't something that spooked him up a little bit further north. We know in Manyaleti there has been quite a few coalitions hanging around up there. So you've had the Matimbas up there, there's those Tunda Impi males up there, and so maybe, just maybe, he bumped into one of those last night, and that's why he's come rushing back this way. Right, now we were at Waterholes and Twin Dams and Chitwa Dam, and those are all places for big reptilian creatures, and I believe Jamie has managed to find one.
Look at this. We've got the massive male crocodile of apparently what's called cul-de-sac crossing. And I've been trying to get a photo of this particular male for ages. Usually you find, and we've spoken about this before, that each and every crossing point or at sort of various stretches along the river, you've got a massive male crocodile that holds a territory. And he lives quite contentedly, for the most part, in the company of the pod of hippos that inhabit this particular part of the Mara River as well. Oh, there we go. Hippos and crocodiles. What a thing those poor wildebeest have to face. The one thing that is in there to their advantage this year, having seen the footage, obviously this is the first time I've ever been here, but having seen the footage from last year, and seen footage of the Mara River in the past and of wildebeest crossings, it seems as though the river is much, much emptier than it was before. Now that's not fantastic news for the larger part. Jumbo! Oh, all the dust in my throat. Trying to say hello to the driver driving next to me. He must think I'm completely absurd. What was I talking about? Oh yes, rivers. This river is much, much emptier than it was, and that's not great for the various animals because it means that the rains have been not what they should be, but it does mean for the wildebeest that they don't face as much of a trial as they might otherwise. This is very close to where we saw the cheetah, and unfortunately, apparently she has moved off. But we're just going to bumble around here and see whether or not we have any luck with finding her. Hi. Let's see how that works out for us. But there you go. I need to get a shot of that crocodile as well, a photograph, so that we can look at identifying marks, any missing scales. But those of you who are out there, you can help me by sharing screenshots on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Right, while our croc snoozes away, I don't think he's going to be moving until the wildebeest arrived. It sounds as though Tristan, it sounded like Alice said he'd lost the road, but I don't think that's what's actually happened. Let's find out.
Well, Jamie, I have been known from time to time to lose my way in the roads, but today I'm on it and we found something in the road, which is a dwarf mongoose that is busy running around. Well, multiple dwarf mongoose that we're busy grooming and playing on the road itself. Now, I'd imagine that the last one is going to scuttle away and they're going to go into the long grass and that will be the end of it. But you can see, I love how they move around and they always look like they're so busy. There's like heads that bob everywhere. They're up on their back legs. They're moving around. They're playing. They're grooming. There's always something happening. And even when they run, they've got this little trot about them like they mean business, much like what a honey badger trots like. Same kind of thing. Well, I'm surprised that they're in the sun because it's quite hot in the sun. So I would have thought these little dwarf mongoose would have enjoyed rather being out, well, in the shade rather than in the sun itself. What have you found there? Look, it's digging. I wonder if it's not smelled something underneath there. Sometimes what they do is they'll smell little larvae or scorpions in the ground, and then you'll find that they start digging frantically. Oh, there we go. We've got a marathon runner. These are the coolest little creatures. I love dwarf mongoose. So much personality for such a small little body. You can see, look at it watching. So you see how clever they are. They know that they don't have the height, so they'll go onto their back legs to scan around and see what's here. Now, I didn't copy that exactly, Alice. If you can repeat it for me. I just heard Gail, so I know Gail said something. You want to know where the plural is mongoose or mongooses or mongai? Well, generally the collective, well, the way that you would describe them is a business of mongoose. So that's how you would say it, but it's not, as far as I know, not mongoose. Maybe somebody can correct me. Do you know, Craig? So as far as I know, we refer to them as a business of mongoose, and that's it. The plural of them would not be geese, though, I don't think. Mongooses, maybe. Now, Jamie is the best one, or James are the best ones to ask about this. They have the English language down pat completely. I'm terrible, of course, and really battle with all of these kind of things. And I think my mother is very, very, very surprised that I managed to pass English when I was at school, because I was never very good with all sort of word orders. And if you ask Ali or anybody else that I message on a constant basis, that's my punctuation is horrific. So I do apologize for that. But I'm sure we can get an answer from either Tayla or Jamie. One of them will know, that's for sure. Now, our mongoose are all just kind of bouncing around into the grass, but I think the plural is mongoose now that I think about it. Maybe Alice knows. Alice can tell us. Alice, do you know what it is? Now, Alice is also seems to have the master command of the English language. So Alice reckons mongoose. This is going to turn into a debate. I reckon we could get on a full-on debate here between everybody. Craig, what are you going with? You don't know, but you've got to choose. Mongoose is wrong, so what are you going to go with? Just to throw it out there. You don't know. You're not going to... So Craig's not having any of it. So, Bangi Oda, you say both mongooses and mongoose are acceptable. Well, there we go. So we're all right, really. It's a whole thing that is used together. So we've learned something. There you go, Craig. You've learned something. You can now go home and say you learned something today, which is excellent. Not only have you seen a nice bird and Hosana, you also learned something vitally important, and that is the plural of a mongoose. Now, I want to go forward because I think our little mongoose is in a... Oh, they are all here. No, it's not. It's a pile of elephant dung. I thought it was a whole grouping of them together, busy grooming themselves, but I got a bit excited. That's just a pile of elephant dung. So this is all because I blame Tayla for all of this, because Tayla shared a video, I don't know if some of you may have seen it, of a whole bunch of banded mongoose together, all huddled up, and now this big pile of elephant dung in front here. I saw one mongoose running towards it, and I thought that was the whole bunch of them together, and I was getting very excited that they all might be sort of huddling up, and maybe we were going to see a contest for one of the dominant individuals, but alas, it's just a pile of elephant dung, and in no way is it a mongoose whatsoever. So onward and forward we go, but let's leave that behind quite quickly. But it seems like our Ellies were here, must have been during the sort of mid part of the day, because that dung is already quite dry. So I would imagine that they were here fairly early, maybe this morning sometime, and they've now crossed down into Little Gari, which is good news, because it means that by the time they would get sort of to Little Gari side, they might be starting to head to Chitwa now, and maybe we get them on the Chitwa side of life. I wonder if we might find them. You see, the torchwoods have all finished fruiting now, so looking for them where the torchwoods grow is no longer a vital move or a clever move, because they will have passed all of those by now. The torchwoods themselves, most of those fruits would have dropped, and so therefore there's really not too much in the way of food when it comes to that. So we're going to try and look for other food sources, and being that it's quite warm, I would imagine anywhere it's quite shady with big trees, so the Mulawati or even Nyala Road south and north might be a good place to go to. What has been quite prevalent this afternoon is bird life. There's been quite a few birds popping about. Ooh. Doug, you want to know if I've had any great adventure stories from my holiday? Well, Doug, no, not really. It was a very relaxing holiday indeed. I didn't get up to too much. Well, actually, I do have one. So in the Kruger National Park, there's a camp called Tamboti. Now, Tamboti is a tented kind of camp on the edge of the Timbavati riverbed, and it is a place that is synonymous with honey badgers. So Byron, if you're listening, that's where you need to go if you want to go see your favorite animal, because we were one night having a fire and we were doing a barbecue as we do here in South Africa, and my brother and I were just having some apple juice and taking it all very easy, and we heard this little noise behind us, and we turned around, and there staring at us no more than 2 meters away was 2 honey badgers. And from there they then decided that they were about to dismantle the honey badger proof bin. Now whoever says that that bin is honey badger proof isn't lying to not only themselves but the rest of society too, because in about 2 seconds the honey badgers have ripped apart that bin completely. They managed to lift it up, and I've actually got a picture of a honey badger in the bin itself with its feet sticking out, its back legs and its tail sticking out head first, and what it would do is it would grab things and then throw it out, and then the other one would dismantle, and they would both come out and feed on whatever it was. So highly entertaining to watch. Not so much an adventure, but it was fun to watch, and actually a little bit scary at the same time. Honey badgers are not something you want to really irritate too much, and when there's 2 of them sitting 2 meters behind you in the dark with those little beady eyes watching you, it is a little bit disconcerting. But it was quite cool to watch them as they went about their business, and you could hear them as they were going down in the camp. From each sort of tent you could just hear bins falling over and people shrieking here and there. It was quite entertaining. Right, now I'll try and think of any other adventures I had while I was on leave, and while we do that, let's go all the way across to Jamie, who's, like Tayla, has got one of the more dangerous animals out here, but I think she might have a few more than what Tayla did. Sorry guys, so it seems like Jamie's gone mute. She's decided she doesn't want to talk to us, and so, well, there's no sound that side, and I think Tayla at this stage is also fighting off gremlins, so you're stuck with us for a little bit longer. Now, in terms of other adventures on leave, there wasn't very too much. I went home and took it very, very easy and just spent some time with family, and it was all very, very relaxing. Not too many adventures. Not like Tayla. Tayla on her last leave tended to go all over the place, and she was in this area and that area and walking and tracking leopards and all kinds of other things. So it seems like she had a very, very busy leave, and so for me it was a lot more relaxing. And it's also because I suppose Ellie is here, so when Ellie's here I try not to go into too many cool places, because otherwise she'll get a little bit jealous. Although while we were away, or while I was away, she seemed to have all the luck while she was here and saw many wonderful things, so I was the one that was a little bit jealous. So maybe I should have gone somewhere a little bit more adventurous. We used to, when we were at Simbambili and we were kind of on a bit of a different sort of leave cycle, we used to do quite a few adventures, and we used to go up to Botswana and all kinds of other places, and so that will be nice to do again at some stage. Now this next little period will be difficult, but once we get to sort of September, October, then maybe we'll be able to go do another epic adventure into the wilds of Africa. Right, now I believe Miss McCurdy has swatted and karate kicked and chopped away at the gremlins and is now back in action, so let's go across to her.
We've been fighting gremlins, we have indeed, Tristan, but guess what? We haven't found any fresh tracks and trunk marks down on the ground where they've been sand and different herds too. But it seems as can you hear me now? How about now, Alice? Is that better? Right, sorry about that. The gremlins are still going after me, and I've stopped in a very awkward spot, but there's a squirrel. I'll tell you my elephant story now. Squirrel, stay where you are. Just hopping onto that marula now. Up he goes. I think it's difficult because yeah, he's gone. It was the little squirrel. They are so quick and so sneaky. It was probably running up that marula tree. Now, they don't like the cars too much, so when they do see us, they normally run up to a tree, to a hidey hole. I can't see it pop its head out, so it must just be on the other side of the tree. But what I was going to say, it says, I think that the two herds of elephants that we were following have crossed south, so we are going to try and find some more. So we're going to go towards Buffelshoek Dam and perhaps check the northern section. So that's our plan now. That's where we're going to be going. But in order for us to do that, we need to move forward, and at the moment we can't go anywhere. Why are you shouting? You're just calling, you're just letting everybody know that this is your area. Sounds like it's between the Natal Spurfowls as well as crested franklins around here. You can hear lots of rustling in the grass. Right, we're going to try and get towards Buffelshoek Dam now, and hopefully we're going to find all sorts of wonderful animals coming down for a drink. Tristan has moved on from his mongoose, and he's got some antelope of some sort.
Well done, Tayla. You got your plurals right. A for effort there. And we've got my favorite antelope. Well, we've got the backside of my favorite antelope, which is a little fluffy bum that's sticking out. And this is the backside of a Nyala. So we know it's a Nyala just because of those white stripes that are coming down from the back and the little white dots around the legs. If it was a bushbuck, we wouldn't see such prominent white stripes at all. Now, there is a tiny baby Nyala somewhere in here. It was a little bit shy and it ran away, but I'm hoping that it's going to come out again. It went behind that buffalo thorn and behind where that younger female is, and so I wonder if we can't just sneak forward and get a view of it. There is a young male here as well, and hopefully we'll be able to see him because he's got a very, very different colored coat to what the females do. Now, where's our little baby? No, our baby's disappeared. So our baby, I think, is behind its mom. You can just see mom's head in the background there. So I think the little one is just behind its mother, and it's much smaller than even the one we're seeing closest to us, which is about, I would say, just under a year old at this stage. And so there's another smaller one there. I love the way they feed, though. It almost looks like they're in little leaves. Sharp thorns, and so lips can't go on for too long at all. But isn't it amazing, their camouflage? So you would think that that sort of bright red coloration would really stand out, but watch when they go into the shadows. Look at that, and then you see how the white stripes just break up the outline as it goes behind the tree, and there we go. That's it, gone, disappeared. Now I'm being attacked by a spider, so there we go, hovering here in front of me. Now where's it gone, Craig? Just felt all this web on my face and had a spider dangling from my eye, which is not a good place to be. I don't want to really get bitten on the eyelid. Can you imagine? That would have been quite nasty. But I see our male is back, so even though our spider has disappeared, our male has come out again. So he's still a very young male. I would say in his just over a year old, and he hasn't quite got his coloration yet. He will have started life the same as what we saw those females, that sort of rusty red coloration, and now he's just slowly but surely turning that dark chocolate brown. And when they become adult males, they are the most magnificent animals. They get these long shaggy coats, lots of fur on the stomach and the back, with these big white stripes that come down, and then they get those impressive twirled horns, and they really look spectacular. What is interesting with the Nyala is that the legs themselves will not change color. So the lower part of the leg will stay, that you see, that's that rusty red in the bottom, and that helps them just to be able to blend in. When they're behind a thicket, the dark coat blends with the shade, and that light leg color blends with the grass, and it means that they can stay very well hidden and stay out of the sight of predators. And you can see their tail almost looks like it's got a life of their own. It's kind of very floppy towards the end and then very bushy. They've got one of the coolest tails out here. Now, let's go across to Miss McCurdy, who has got an antelope of her own, and find out what she thinks, if she would like a Nyala tail or if she would rather have something different.
Waterbuck is the antelope that we've got, and a beautiful one nonetheless. Now, when we first arrived in this sighting, it was actually quite funny, I must tell you. Ferg and I were just sitting here, and I was looking at this beautiful girl, and she's staring straight at us and not moving. I thought, oh, that's a little bit unusual that she's here all on her own. So I said to Ferg, I was like, we can show final control, let's do this Waterbuck, she's not running away. And Ferg sort of looked at me as if to say, are you bonkers? Because he was looking at a completely different Waterbuck right behind the car and wondering how on earth he was going to swing the camera around that way. So that was quite a fun little moment we had there. So I was going to say, if she was on her own, that maybe she was perhaps going to give birth, because Waterbuck often do that, like Bushbuck and Nyala do. They'll separate if they are with a little family group, and then they go off and give birth and hide their little ones away until they're old enough. But there we go, she's looking back across. She's obviously heard the other Waterbuck that are moving through the thicket, but she's very kind this afternoon to stand out in the open. I always struggle with Waterbuck. I don't think I've had many particularly good sightings while we've been live. Normally it's always an obstructed view of them hiding behind bushes. And she's been very obliging this afternoon. I suspect that she might go back towards the direction of the other Waterbuck. We can't really see them now. Like I said, they're just coming out of a drainage line. So I wonder where they're off to. Now, Waterbuck, of course, water-dependent animals. So from where we are now, we're on Drakensberg Road. That's where she's going. She's going back to the others. I'm just trying to think. There's not particularly any water around here. Maybe if they go down into the Mulwati and drink from an elephant well. Otherwise, they're going to have to go all the way to Buffelshoek Dam. Maybe Buffelshoek Dam and Twin Dams are equal distance apart, so they can choose between those two. But isn't that lovely with that lovely light, backlit female Waterbuck? Very, 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 very casually just moving off. Stopping one last time to make sure that we aren't trying to sneak up on her. Beautiful. Now she's just about to disappear into the bushes, and we have got a plan that we need to try and fulfill. We're still racing on towards Buffelshoek Dam. Tristan, he's having all the luck today. Who will be the first one to find an elephant? Tristan, I issue that challenge. Let's go and see what he has to say.
Well, Tayla, I feel like you're setting me up for failure here, because I feel like Tayla has heard elephants by the Buffelshoek Dam, and that's why she's racing off there, and maybe she knows the elephants are there. I have got elephant tracks of my own that we are busy checking around for, but I feel like they might be going up towards Buffelshoek Dam. So, it might be a race to actually who gets to Buffelshoek Dam first. Really? No, I'm just kidding. I won't go there. If they go that way, I'm going to leave them and leave them for Tayla, because we have had actually quite a lucky afternoon. We've seen lots of interesting things and lots of different species, and so it's been very, very pleasant indeed. So what I think we're going to do is start heading our way towards Chitwa Dam, because it's that perfect time of the day to kind of go there. And I also want to see if maybe little Tumba is out and about. You never know, maybe he's come out and has decided to grace us with his presence, and will do the opposite of So, okay, before I get into what Tumba being the opposite of Hosana and coming our side, Miss McCurdy says I'll never beat her to Bufferflies Dam. What she doesn't know is that I'm all of about 200 meters south of the dam itself, and so I could easily have put my foot flat and maybe have gotten there before her, unless she's already there, in which case, well, yes, she would be right, and I would never beat her there. But we'll have to wait and see as to where she is and what she's been doing. Now, hopefully she looks after Wendy, because Wendy was in the sick bay for a while, and we don't want Wendy to be broken again, so hopefully she'll drive Wendy nicely, and that's why we're not going to race, is to make sure that we look after Wendy. She's had a tough week, and so we'll try not to stress Wendy out too much. I'm quite glad I'm not in Wendy myself, because I would imagine that she's going to be a little bit on the sensitive side to start with, and you're going to have to talk to Wendy quite a bit over the next few days and tell her that you're very sorry that we put her in hospital, and she's one of those vehicles that you have to try and form a relationship with again, otherwise she just throws you under the bus and decides that she doesn't want to work. And so Wendy needs to be treated gently, and if anybody can win Wendy over, it will be Miss McCurdy, so I'm sure all will be fine. If we can just get rid of the gremlins in our signal with Miss McCurdy, then that will be perfect. Right, now we're on Bufferflies cut line, so let's see if little Tumba is back, because what I was hoping is, while Hosana was on our side and decided to go south to Little Gauri, maybe there's going to be a swap around and little Tumba will have come north onto our side. Well, that's what I'm hoping for anyway. Whether or not that's going to be the case is anyone's guess at this stage. What is also quite interesting is that there's been no sign of Tundi at this stage, so I wonder where she is. She has been seen obviously a few weeks ago, or a few days ago, when she had that kill on Chitwa with Tumba, and that was probably, well, what, 9 days ago. So she is around, it just hasn't been seen for the last few days, and I wonder if she's not here somewhere. I'm just going to check down towards where she was. Roshni, you're asking which animal do I look forward to seeing on a safari the most? Well, Roshni, without doubt, hands down, a leopard. That is the best signal animal in the world. And I know that all the others will fight with me on this, but there is something about a leopard. They are the most beautiful cats. They have that spotted rosettes, and how can you not get excited when you come around a corner and see a beautiful figure of Hosana lying on the road? That's really quite spectacular. But my second sort of best during the day, or when it's a little bit hotter, is the elephants, because often they down at water and then you get them playing around in the water and going crazy, and so I always love watching the elephants around the water holes. And then the third one, which is probably in terms of having guests on the back and actually having sort of some excitement and sort of getting that heart beating and the pulse racing, would be the wild dogs. The wild dogs are a crazy animal to follow around for an afternoon, and the way that they move and run and chase and go after everything, and it all just kind of feels like you're in part of a Formula 1 race when you're with the wild dogs, and it's just lap after lap and it's all over the place. In fact, maybe not a Formula 1, let's go with a Dakar rally more like, because you end up being more off the road than you are on it, but it all is very fun. So it's quite a lot of fun to follow them, and those would be my top 3 animals on a safari. I love spending time with any one of those 3, and of course all the animals are special and I like spending time with all of them, but those 3 are the ones that I most look forward to seeing and most hope to see when I'm out. Now, Ellie always laughs at me because I tell her that I don't have very much luck with the lions, and she says it's because I don't like the lions as much as the leopards, and I'm too much of a I favor the leopards too much, and that's why I don't get much luck with them. Well, maybe that's true, because I do rather see a leopard than a lion. Although I must be honest, seeing the Nkahuma pride is one of my favorites too. I love spending time with them. They are such a cool pride to hang around with, and many memorable sightings hopefully are in store for us for the winter, and hopefully we can find where Amber Eyes is in the next few weeks and be able to start seeing her cub more and more as it approaches that sort of 8 weeks of age, and we can start viewing her and Amber Eyes together a little bit more. Or he, I'm not sure if it's a male or a female. Did we ever actually find out, Craig? Do you know if it's a boy or a girl, that little cub? No, not sure. Not sure, me neither. So we don't know yet, and that's probably because it's too small. So when they're very little like that, it's almost impossible to tell what is what. So hopefully in a little bit of time we will see, and we'll also hopefully get to spend lots of time with them, and her having a cub here will be a sign, hopefully, that the Ingoma Pride is going to spend a lot of time on Juma this winter. That's what we can hope for. Now, I want to also just check while I'm down this area, so I'm going to go and check Gwen's old den. Now, for those of you who are not sure who Gwen is, it's a short name for Ingwenya, and it refers to an old hyena that is a pretty low-ranking female that we have in this area. She spends time, well, she was at one stage in a den down towards this sort of southeastern corner, and so nobody, I don't think, has checked here for quite a while, so I'm going to just poke my nose in there and just see. You never know, maybe, just maybe, she's back in that area. She was evicted by a warthog by the looks of it the last time she was here, and so maybe she's decided to come back and try again. I haven't seen the warthog in there either for the last little bit, so let's have a look and see. But it is a beautiful afternoon. Sure. So, Zena, you want to know which animals I've studied the most? Well, I suppose studied is in terms of actually spending time with them. I would say probably in all likelihood elephants, in terms of just sheer time that I've spent with them. I mean, just since I've been with Safari Live, I would imagine that I've probably spent, I don't even know, close to 100 hours with elephants already, maybe more. It's one of my favorite animals to spend long periods with, and so I suppose them more than anything else. Other than that, we obviously see a lot of impalas, and so we get to kind of see them and watch their habits and read up about them quite a bit. So between them and elephants would probably be the most likely. Obviously, I've read up as much as I can about leopards, and the thing about leopards, and even to lions and cheetah and wild dogs to a degree, most of the predators, is that their behavior is very often influenced by their environment that they're in. So this morning we kind of touched on the fact that leopards, even though you'll read books and they'll tell you that a leopard is a solitary cat, as we've seen here in the Sabi Sands, is that we often get sightings of lots of individuals together. The most that I've seen together was 6 on one termite mound, and that was Karula with Induna, Mishu, Shavinzi, Shavambalana and Jordan. So those were them, and that's the most I've seen. Now, if you read any textbook, it will tell you that there will never be a female with her 2 older boys, her new set of cubs, and a male on the same termite mound. Well, there we go. It's just proof that it is. So with the cats and things like that, even though you might study them, it's all very area specific. And even the elephants, to a degree, they'll have different sort of feeding patterns and different food items that they'll go after according to the sort of areas that they're in. So it just depends on where you are. That will determine how certain animals move around. But in terms of time spent with an animal, I think probably elephants is more than anything else. And that's just because I would love to have spent more time with leopard and lions, and the problem with leopards is that they just get to that point where they don't want you to follow them anymore and they just disappear, and it can be really a tough animal to follow, whereas elephants are not that difficult. You know, they're big animals, make a lot of noise, and so once you find a herd of elephants, staying with them is actually not that difficult, and you can kind of follow them around as they go. And now that we're approaching this area where Gwen had her den, and you're just gonna check carefully, see if there's maybe any sign of tracks. So far I don't see anything. Well, let's go this way, Craig. So Monique, in London, you say you have a soft spot for Gwen. Well, I think a lot of us do. She's got so much character as a female, you know, with those tatty ears, and the fact that she was on her own and the little ones, and she's had a sort of a tough time of it. The older females bully her a little bit. It makes life quite hard for her, and so I actually do have a bit of a soft spot for her too, and hopefully she will see her in the coming weeks and we'll find her. But that is the hole that she used to live in, and you can see now there's nobody inside there. She used to find her here in the afternoons with her head poking out and those eyes closed lazily and ears kind of moving around, and alas, no sign at this stage. So here we go. Well, it was worth a try anyway. You never know these things. It's always good to come and check old dens. And in fact, the way we found her at this den was we literally just bumped into her and she was walking in this direction, and we thought, well, we'll just come and have a look and see. Maybe we get lucky. And sure enough, there she was going into the den, and then from there Jamie saw some of the young ones here, and we had her for a few weeks until our big warthog male arrived, and well, that was the end of that, unfortunately. He evicted Gwen, And I'm sure she's around. She might just be on Torchwood. You know, we're right on the Torchwood boundary at the moment. So maybe she's found herself a little mound inside Torchwood that works a little bit better that she can use. Also, her young ones that she had at the time were quite big already. And so they'll be almost time for them to be out of the dens and moving around with her. Remember that the lower ranking females will often take their young ones with them when they go to a carcass. So it's not always a case where you're going to end up with a situation where they're going to stay in the den and the female's going to bring them food. Now I actually was going to go this way just to see if Tumba was here, but what I want to do is just check, because Gary Main, come on Rusty, there we go, Rusty doesn't want to go into reverse. Now what I want to do is just check this side and just see if there isn't any sign of maybe him coming a little bit further this way before I start heading back towards Chitwa side. But let's have a look here. Now I'm just trying to pay attention on the road, because this road is quite hard in places, so especially in this little front section, and if he's crossed in here, because he's not the biggest male, his tracks are going to be quite tough to see. So just trying to look very carefully, also checking in all these shady thickets on my right hand side, which would be the perfect place for a leopard to spend its afternoon, in the shade and the sort of cool of that area. Now I don't think he might have come this far, but it's always worth checking. You also never know, maybe Tundi's close by and we find her lurking in these thickets somewhere. Let's just check as we go down. Careful your head, Craig. And we don't want to decapitate Batman. That will be a very, very bad day indeed, and lots of paperwork. Craig, do you have medical aid? Life insurance? Not really. Okay, so I won't be thought of murdering you if I by mistake decapitate you. But let's try and avoid that, Craig. Let's not go that way. Don't really want to have to patch you up. You've got to be a bit careful out here as a cameraman, because we tend to get a bit focused on the bushes and spotting things and talking, that sometimes we miss branches, and poor Craig has had a couple branches slap him in the face while I've been following animals before. I'm very sorry, Craig, I don't mean it. Craig's just looking at me with these eyes like, yes, you better learn from your mistakes. Don't want to see this again. Hey, Craig? Craig's just smiling, and we're all joking, of course. It's not like that at all. Craig is probably the most laid-back guy that we have here. He's very chilled and generally just shrugs it off and always says it's all okay. So it's always very pleasant to be with Craig in the on any drive really. He's got such a nice demeanor, so it's good person to have on the back. Right, no sign of Tundi or Tumba this side. I think let's start heading to where we had them this morning, or him, should I say, and see if there's not any sign there. Now let's have a look this side. No, nothing. I reckon he must still be in the same place. I'm going to try and see if I can't get an update from the Eastern Channel at some point. Maybe they pushed a little bit further into Little Gari. It's also possible, given the way that Hosana has been moving around, maybe Tumba was the exact same today and was moving just as much. It really is interesting, and Craig and I were discussing it earlier. When I first started, and also when Craig first started, we used to find Hosana and Shongile a lot, and they used to be very relaxed. We used to have the whole drive with them just sitting at a waterhole or sitting near a road or a mound or a tree. Nowadays, every time we find them, unless they've got a carcass somewhere, they tend to be very mobile. They tend to move all the time, and we've seen with Hosana today that he's moved a lot. Even from treehouse, he was moving and snaking his way through. As soon as we found him this afternoon, he started to kind of get up and moving again. And I was listening on the radio earlier, he just continued to go south, and he went deep into Hoffman's already. So he's moving around quite a bit, and I wonder if it's just that unsettled phase that he's going through. You know, he doesn't quite know where to sort of set up a territory at this stage. Mom is still missing, so you know, it's a tough time for him, and that's maybe why he's a lot more unsettled than when we see Tumba, for example. Tumba generally tends to stick into one area. there, he doesn't move nearly as much, and that's because he knows mom's going to come fetch him and he's going to get taken to food, and he doesn't really have to look after himself that much. As long as he stays in one place, generally mom will find him. Whereas Hosana, Shongile, they don't have that luxury at this stage. They've got to be active about finding food and varying other things, and that's probably why they move as so much and why we're not seeing them with as much regularity as we normally do. So let's have a look now. This is close to where I left Tundi earlier. It was somewhere in, sorry, not Tundi. I don't know why I keep saying Tundi. Tundi and Tumba sound so similar in my mind that I keep saying the wrong name. Now, there's some oxpeckers calling, which would generally be a sign that there is an animal of some sort around here that is not a predator. So Debbie, you're wondering about the breeding herds of buffalo and whether they're back yet. Well, Debbie, I haven't heard of too many. I know that there was one small herd seen this morning around Bufferflies Cutline on the northern side, so close towards sort of north of WildEarthTV camp. There was a small little herd that was seen there. In terms of big herds, I haven't heard of anything. I know there was one or two in the Manyaleti at one point, but I certainly haven't seen any myself. And you know, I went into the Kruger Park and I did the whole central areas north of the Manyaleti and then going northwards, which is normally buffalo central, and you normally see lots of herds of buffalo in that area. And quite frankly, there was nothing. There was very, very little that we found. In fact, I didn't see one herd of buffalo in that trip either, and we did over 500 kilometers. So it seems like they're not back just yet, but hopefully, even if we just get small groupings of buffalo, that will be enough to keep the sort of lions around. So even if we don't get those really monstrous herds, some small groups every now and then would also help. Just checking here in case Tumba was lying here, but I don't think so. I want to just quickly see that last termite mound there where we left him, if he's not there. Let's see now. Just go through here quickly. I don't think he'll be on the termite mound. No, don't fly away. There was a beautiful hippo that was there. Now I'm going to try to see if I can't find it. Where did it go now? Where are you, hippo? It flew in this direction. Right, now I believe Tayla's found some signal, so let's go across to her and see what she's been doing and how Bufferflies Dam was, and whether or not she had any luck when it came to the elephants.
Very, very quiet. Ooh, leopard track. Hang on. Was that a leopard track? Sorry, we went to Bufferflies Dam. Just checking now. I just drove over it. It didn't look particularly. No, I've gone over it. It was from the a few days ago. Quiet. No heron. No anything like that. None of our usual characters. The hippos bobbing down, up and down, but they weren't cooperating this afternoon, so we left them, and we are on our way back towards WildEarthTV Dam, which is just over here. And then maybe they're up now. They could still be sitting away. We'll see who else is here. I'm just making sure. Maybe that wasn't a leopard track I saw. Maybe it was a little lion track. It did look quite small, but it didn't look particularly fresh. I actually just want to keep circling this area for the entire night, sort of like what we did the other evening. We were trying to find that leopard, and I think Tristan was right in saying that it was possibly Hosana that was calling just behind WildEarthTV Lodge, and a little bit nervous to come out. But anyway, eventually he did, which was quite nice, and we got to have a quick glimpse of him. Let's head towards the dam. No elephants still. Elephant tracks everywhere, but they've all moved off, and I suppose that's just the way that it goes. Just like we haven't really been seeing any buffalo at the moment, and as Tristan was just discussing, is that they come in waves. They'll be here for a little bit, and then they'll move away, and then they'll come back here, then they'll move away again, and just in a cycle. But these tracks are so fresh. I've even seen buffalo tracks. Now I hope our buffalo haven't left the dam. Make sure I haven't missed them. I think they have. All their footprints are coming this way, going back out. Right, let me go up and on the dam wall and we'll have a closer look. Who's here waiting for us? No one. Any birds? Everyone's gone. Oh no. I suppose we still have our beautiful Hadeda ibises, which is quite lovely, backlit. It's very nice actually. Hello Carter, who is 13 years old now. I know Carter has been working very hard on his bird list, which is quite exciting. And you've asked me what is my favorite bird. I think my favorite bird has to be a secretary bird. However, I do enjoy watching Hadedas. I didn't like them when I was younger. I always tell the story that my mom said this was the only bird that used to make me cry because of their terrible calls. Other than that, I think that they're quite spectacular. We did spend a little bit of time with them earlier on, but they've moved on now to the eastern corner of the dam. Everything is shuffled about. The buffalo are gone. Now the Hadedas are also making their move. My goodness, what's happened? Let's see if there's any more birds here. Carter, I have a question for you though. How many birds have you got on your list now? So just hashtag Safari Live with your answer so we can see it. Now there's something else. Is it a little starling that's coming? Actually, yes, there's a whole group of, sounded like Cape Glossy starlings just a bit further away from that one Hadeda. If you go to the left of the dam, a little bit further left, there was one having a drink. It's invisible. Oh, there it is. It's, the Hadeda is on its way there. So the Hadeda that's furthest, Ferg, if you zoom straight in, you'll get it. Yeah, it's just where that Hadeda is, just to the right of it. It's just hopping about. So there's a starling that has joined and just fallen out of frame. Okay, well, let's carry on. We've seen the Hadedas already. Let's see what else we can find. Any response from Carter yet to see what number, how many birds he's got on his list? But that's a beautiful view, isn't it? This is one of my favorite spots to come, but we've still got quite a way to go before the sun sets. But what a lovely view that is. But now we don't have the tall grass anymore. Remember on bushwalk, I always used to come here. And just before we had to head back to camp, before it was too dangerous for us to keep walking around, we'd get that bush camera nice and low and down in the grass, and it was stunning. Ah, Carter, you said you've only got 7 birds. Right, let's see if we can add some more to that list. I'm trying to remember which birds we have got on your list. I think we've got some of the common ones, but you know what, I'm going to have to take a break because I've just seen a giraffe. Hi, giraffe. Ah, you're looking at me to say hello. We've had a giraffe